Whoa. Yeah, it's another Pistons fall back below 500 with a loss to the Toronto Raptors. And throughout the game, it never really seemed like they were into it much. Let a couple people join in here before we do like our deep dive. But essentially with this game, you could boil all the problems that the Pistons had down to the defense. You looked at some of the individual players. They put up pretty good stat lines, and they'd played better than they had in the previous games. For example, Markieff Morris, this is probably his best game as a Piston. 16 points, hit a couple three-pointers, 5 rebounds. Andre Drummond gave you another very strong performance with 20 points and 20 rebounds. This is really kind of it for the starters. One thing that's a kind of a little bit concerning now is Luke Kennard had a really good first couple games, and the last few games he really hasn't shot the ball well at all tonight. Again, just 1 for 6. Seems like he's a little bit less aggressive, and tonight may have been because he was inserted into the starting lineup. And from all of last year, if you watch the Pistons, you know that Luke's way more comfortable coming off the bench, and that's obviously where Coach Casey wants to bring him off. But with the Pistons being so shorthanded, Reggie Jackson didn't even make the trip up to the Great North in Toronto, Canada. There, it's just you're kind of looking for just bodies at this point. So it forces guys like Luke to start, unless you wanted to put Bruce Brown, who had just like a really kind of terrible game. 3 fouls, only at 1 point, had 4 turnovers as well, and it seemed like really every time that Bruce had the ball in his hands, something negative happened, and that's still to be expected because it is only his second year. Obviously, it wasn't like a high draft pick or anything like that. So for Bruce Brown, he's going to have those lumps. He's still a guy, of course, that the Pistons really like, but tonight was not one of his better games. But you hope it's something that he can build off of. Derrick Rose had another strong performance. I think it's actually his first double-double that he's had with the Pistons, 16 points, 10 assists. Shvi Mykhailiuk got in there in some garbage time minutes, but played relatively well. Shot 3 for 4, all 3 being three-pointers, 9 points. So hopefully he found his way to crack the rotation. And then Langston Galloway had a pretty nice game for himself as well, scoring 17 points and just going 8 of 8 from the line. So if you're going to take, kind of some slim positives from this game, it really would be the way that the bench played. Other than that, again, the story is defense. The Toronto Raptors were really able to do everything that they wanted to the Pistons, both inside and outside. They shot, just about 50% from 3. They shot 60% for the game. Pascal Siakam went 35 and 5. So it's not 35 points and 5, but 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Kyle Lowry, who they put his stats up last year against the Pistons, who's like 24 points, 6 assists, and 7 rebounds, I think. Something like that. And he had another great game, 20 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. And really everybody from Toronto shot well, with the exception of, I don't even know who this gentleman is. Let me go click on his player profile for you guys. This is Chris, I think Boucher is how you say his name, or Boucher. But 0 of 2. But everybody else on Toronto's team shot fantastic, over 50%. Siakam 13 of 21, OG Anunoby 6 of 10, Marcus Gasol 2 of 3, Kyle Lowry 7 of 13, for Van Fleet 5 of 9. Serge Ibaka off the bench played really well for Toronto as well, 19 points and shot 9 of 15. So if you're going to kind of criticize, especially Andre Drummond for one thing tonight, and it certainly looked like it was kind of more egregious during the beginning parts of the game, is he's very active on the glass. Obviously, he finished with 22 rebounds, but there was a lot of times where he just wasn't stepping up on a guy like Gasol, Siakam, or even Serge Ibaka, and these are all guys that can stretch the floor and shoot the ball. So Drummond was playing a little bit more off than he should have, and it gave these guys the ability to not drive the basket and try and get fouled or anything like that, and take a tougher shot. They were able to just pull up, and a lot of them were like small floaters too. Drummond got lost a couple times on defense, or he lost Marc Gasol, or even if it didn't lead directly to like Gasol scoring, what Gasol was able to do was find like an open cutter to the basket, and maybe his vision would have been a little bit impaired, and that passing lane wouldn't have been there if Drummond was a little bit quicker to react to what Gasol was doing. But there's another game, obviously, that the Pistons had without Reggie Jackson, and now I think you can kind of start to see Dwayne Casey fool with the lineups a little bit. Like I mentioned, Shafee got in there for 9 minutes, and he's really just trying to find guys that can step up. Because before tonight anyway, Markieff Morris really hadn't played well for the Pistons. A guy like Tim Frazier, he's not somebody who's supposed to be playing 20 minutes a night. Derrick Rose tonight only got 20 minutes, which I think is a pretty smart move on Casey's part. One, he, obviously didn't start, and that's something that Casey has been steadfast in, saying it's not going to happen. They're not going to go ahead and play Derrick Rose a tremendous amount of minutes, and they're not going to put more pressure on him, especially early in the season, than is really necessary. And tonight, basically the entire second half, it was anywhere around like a 15 to sort of 20-point game. The Pistons made kind of a surge late to get it closer and only lose by 12, but the game itself wasn't that close. So I think it was smart of Casey to limit Derrick Rose's minutes tonight, even though, like we said, Derrick Rose did play pretty well. But, if the Pistons are down by 18 points and there's 6 minutes left, that's a game that you're not going to come back and win. So it doesn't make sense for Derrick Rose to be on the floor at that time and just kind of, live to fight another day. Word to John Witherspoon, who just passed away, the dad from Friday. It's the dad in Wayne's Brothers, and a bunch of other movies as well. But that was one of his lines in Friday. You fight and you live to fight another day. But I don't know. I'd kind of like to get your guys' thoughts on what you think either went wrong for the Pistons, or if you found some silver lining in what they were able to do tonight, and just kind of enlighten us. Because the Raptors are obviously a better team than the Pistons are, but just kind of out the gate, you could tell that it wasn't going to be the Pistons' night, and the Raptors were just hitting everything. Part of it was the defense that the Pistons were playing, which has kind of been an issue all year. That's reared its ugly head, but it's the shots that they're hitting. They're hitting a lot of tough shots too. So congratulations to them. I don't know if there's a team in the league that would have beaten them tonight, just kind of because of how on they were. But I do think obviously other teams could have made it a little bit tougher on Toronto for what they were able to do. And the Pistons are now back under 500. They're at 2-3 on the year. Their next game is in 2 days. It's gonna be on Friday against the Bulls in Chicago. And the Bulls are lowly 1-4. So the Pistons 2-3, a little bit better record, and the Pistons are a better team as the Pistons are just a better team as well. So hopefully that can get them back to the 500 mark where they want to be. But throughout at least the first 9 games, it sounds like the Pistons aren't going to have Blake Griffin on the court. Of course, they didn't have him tonight. There's really no timetable that at least I've seen yet for Reggie Jackson either. And those guys, when the Pistons get them back, you hope at least when they get Blake back that they can be around 5-4, that they can kind of weather the storm a little bit and bring him back to a team that's above 500. So the rest of the season, right, you're not really going to be able to say that those 9 games cost the Pistons unless they bottom out and they're 2-7 before he returns. And kind of the same deal with Reggie Jackson is when you bring these guys back, you don't really expect them to be fully at 100%. So if you're a team that's losing and you're 3-6 or 2-7 by the time Blake and maybe even Reggie get back, what you don't want to have happen is now you're forced to play these guys more and they're pressing a little bit harder because obviously they want to help the team win. Whenever Blake or Reggie's on the court, they're going to be giving it they're going to be giving it their all, and they're going to be going hard. So you hope, if you're 6-3 or 5-4 and you have a little bit of wiggle room, that you can kind of monitor their minutes when they first come back. So if you do end up in a situation like tonight and you're down 18 points or you're even up 10 points, you can count on some of the more experienced guys, the guys like Markieff Morris, even the guys kind of like Derrick Rose, even though you're trying to monitor his minutes as well. But you want these individuals to be able to step up for you. So that way, when Blake comes back, he is not the entire offense again. Hopefully, Luke Kennard, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, they can kind of shoulder some of the load that they've been shouldering so that, when these guys come back, they don't have to hurt themselves trying to just go, trying to kind of go above and beyond again. But tonight's game, like I said, kind of want to keep this short. I do want to get back to the World Series. I want the Nationals to win. Big Steven Strasburg fan. And if you guys want to hear the predictions that we had for the World Series, you can catch that on the Sports Carnage podcast or on iTunes or on Podbean. In this little description here at the top, you can just click our Facebook link and you'll find us there. But YouTube, Twitter, find us and follow us everywhere. Subscribe, rate, review. We had it was pretty diverse picks on the World Series, which is pretty cool. And we had a really nice discussion on it. Not this episode that's coming out, because there's a new one on Thursday, which isn't the World Series talk. But there was one that we did last Thursday that came out. It should be Sports Carnage episode 49 if you need help finding it. But we did a pretty thorough breakdown of the World Series. You can find that there. And we've yet to talk NBA basketball. I'm kind of itching to do it. But on this week coming up, we didn't talk about the NBA. We actually talked about the college athlete bill that they're able to make, or that they passed to be able for college athletes to be able to make money off of their image and off their likeness. And hopefully that means the NCAA football game is brought back. But that's why I'm here every night talking to you guys about the Pistons, because unfortunately we haven't been able to do that on the podcast yet. But I promise you it's coming. Hell or high water. Even if it's not on our run sheet. Is what I'm going to be talking about. But that's kind of really all that we had for you guys tonight regarding the Pistons game. Like I said, next game they have on Friday against the Bulls. Hopefully they can get off the snide there and put together a nice little winning streak before they do get their team back fully healthy. But that's what I wanted to say to you guys. Have a good night. I hope the team that you want to win the World Series wins, as long as it's the team that I'm rooting for as well. But stay safe, drive safe if you have to drive anywhere again tonight. Have a happy Halloween tomorrow, because we won't be seeing you tomorrow. But other than that, have a good day and make sure you check us out on Sports Carnage. Peace.